Welcome to Deep Waters. I'm George Jackovic, alongside the Hall of Famer, analyst, trainer Teddy Atlas, and the two champions, Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi, on the East Coast. On the Northeast, I'm up in the Northeast. It's snowy here, guys. It's cold, but we're talking boxing, so it always makes me happy. Always makes me warm talking boxing. And today we're talking about Artur Beterbiev, who had a smashing return last Saturday night, knocked out Callum Smith in the seventh round, Chris. Dropped him twice, was up pretty big on the scorecards. It really was literally a smashing return for Beterbiev.
Yeah, I mean, he looked as good as ever, which is wild. You know, the old saying is you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but at 38, approaching 39 years old, Beterbiev was actually getting better. He was out there. He closed the distance brilliantly. He's very smooth on the way in. He was deceptive with the way he was able to just walk Smith down, and then I mean the jab. That was the biggest punch and most obvious shot for me was the jab all night long. We're seeing photos now of some of those shots. And his jab is a power jab. He wasn't loading up anything. He was just getting to the target. Nice straight punches. I loved how he was even throwing combinations and then would finish with a jab or throw a jab in the middle. That really offset Callum Smith, who was never able to get his feet set so he could throw those counter punches and the power shots that he had. Super impressive. Honestly, this has changed my mind about Beterbiev in the upcoming potential matchup with Dmitry Bivol. I was always really high on Bivol. Now I got to rethink things. I got to go back to the drawing board and study tape on both these guys because that performance really flipped things on its head for me. And yeah, I mean, it makes me even more excited for that matchup. And Beterbiev is back. He's back in a big way, showed almost no ring rust. And like I said, I think he actually was getting better. And Callum Smith, it wasn't a close fight. It wasn't the fight that we were expecting. I thought there were going to be moments for Callum Smith. There was none. Beterbiev was able to completely shut him down from the opening bell, close the distance. It's very impressive performance. The guy must have found the fountain of youth, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go, though. But a really impressive, dominant performance from Beterbiev.
Paulie.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting. Chris mentioned his boxing, and then not just his punching. I found it interesting because he was backing up Smith a lot, but there was also times where he was allowing himself to be backed up and kind of circled the ring a little bit, and it sort of allowed Callum to sort of get a little comfortable coming forward, and then before restarting again, So he kind of fought in a very technical way. He wasn't just the come forward guy. I mean, obviously when he did a lot of the damage, he came forward, he did what he did. But then there were times where Smith was coming forward, and it was almost like Beterbiev would lure him in and then restart to back him up again, sort of give him that false sense of security, to keep him opening up, because a lot of times it is tough to get guys to open up a lot against a guy who's such a big puncher like Beterbiev. But I thought he played the whole night very well. I thought he played the game plan very well. He executed everything very well. Champ Chris mentioned the body shots, the jab. He was really putting Callum Smith in uncomfortable places where physically and mentally it was stressing Callum. And you start to see that with a lot of Beterbiev opponents that do end up going some rounds, the ones that he doesn't get rid of early. You start to see how the stress starts to get to them as well. They start to physically and mentally wear away, and that's what ended up happening. And what happens when that happens is, you start to become more hittable when you're in those compromised positions, like being on the ropes and whatnot. I felt like Callum Smith had a good head movement on the ropes early on in the fight. I felt like he should have had more head movement at center ring, but at least early on in the fight, he had some decent head movement when you get back to the ropes that he had Beterbiev at least guessing a little bit where he was going to go. But then as the fight wore on, you saw as Callum was getting stuck on the ropes, he'd get hit with more and more cleaner shots. So you could just see it was wearing away, the energy, the physical prowess, the mental capacity to stay confident in that fight was wearing away from Callum. And, he eventually got worn down.
How about you, Teddy? What'd you see in Artur?
No, all of those things. I mean, to piggyback off of what Paulie's saying, for me, watching Beterbiev, watching his opponent, it's like watching a pot of boiling water. It ain't gonna be there that long. You got a full pot of water there, and come back a couple minutes later, it's gonna be a half a pot. Come back a couple minutes later, it's gonna be a quarter of a pot, and come back a little later, there's gonna be nothing. And that's Beterbiev. He boils you down, and just using a little different way of saying what Paulie said, but that's what he does. He, you're going to fight him. You better be wrapped in titanium, and I don't mean the body. Again, what Paulie alluded to, I mean the mind, the head, better be wrapped in titanium, because it's kind of like a space shuttle coming in for re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. If you don't have titanium, the Earth's atmosphere is going to burn it up, and you better you get burned up by this guy. And again, not the body. I mean, yeah, he hits you to the body, he does that, he breaks you down, he don't stop, but it's the pressure, it's the way he applies it, the steadiness of it, all the implications that he ain't going no more, that you have a problem. You are in the ring with the boogeyman, the John Wick boogeyman we talked about last week when
Baba
we were
Yaga.
previewing this fight. Yeah, what's his name again?
Baba Yaba.
There he is. I mean, he's Baba Yaga. He is Baba Yaga. And then you realize I'm in there with Baba Yaga. And when you realize you're in there with Baba Yaga, it gets worse. It gets worse because we know 75% of this business is mental. So it gets worse. You start to say, you can't defeat Baba Yaga. He once killed 3 men with a pencil. What am I going to do? So he makes you feel hopeless. And when you have no hope, you have a big problem. You could be in a war with guys and you could be taking a lot. You've seen it before. And seen it before. These guys have done it before that I'm talking with. Our partners here, Paulie and Chris. And but as long as you got hope, as long as you got something to hold on to, he takes your hope away. That's from the mental side of it, not just the physical side of it. As far as the physical side of it, everything that the 2 champions just said, I just add in the short punches. The Joe Louis short punches.
Yep.
And how he's cerebral in a way, that's where we lose something with him, where you think just that he's just a seek and destroy guy. And again, Paulie touched on it. You think he's just a seek and no, he's a lot more than that. He's a lot more than that. But that's his approach. That's the style. That's what you walk away with. That's what you think. But no. It's a lot more than that. Sometimes he'll just throw them, and he won't throw them as hard. And then all of a sudden, he's moving you into a position. He knows what he's doing. He's throwing them. He's like the hunter that's out there, in the forest, and he knows that the pheasant is there, but he's got to flush him out. So he shoots a shot over here to flush it out over. Well, that's what he's doing. He's flushing a guy out, moving him into a position, not letting him think, making him hopeless, creating, chaos in his mind, keeping him discombobulated. George Foreman was good at that in a different way. When George Foreman fought Joe Frazier, everyone saw the uppercut, lift him off the ground. They saw that. Devastating. But the jab kept discombobulating him. It never let him get his senses together, his hope together, his body together. And that's what he does. And he's throwing all these little shots. He's moving you where he wants. He goes to the body. He mixes it up. And he also, in the 7th round, when he finally got it to the point where there was the avalanche, and then the final result of it, the accumulation of everything, it had started right from the 1st round when he started sending a signal, started sending a message. But throughout the rounds, he was trying to time him with a right hand. And I'll say it again, timing, not just throw a right hand. He was looking for the spot where he could time him. And he finally got it in the 7th. He timed it with the right hand. That got him to the place he wanted. And then he went in there, he knew how to finish. And he also knows how to obviously put punches together, put the right punches. The uppercut comes at the right time, just at the right time, because he's calm in an uncalm environment, because he sees that where he'll choose the right punch. And it's so important for the great fighters, the special fighters, to choose the right punch. It's not luck. It's not luck. They know that that's the right punch, and he knows it's the right punch at the right time. Also, the other thing that I would just add in there is obviously what Chris talked about, the jab, how he uses that jab, and uh, just the complete package, the short punches, and also counters. He mixed in everything, and people will miss it. Again, you miss it because you're just thinking at the end of the day what you have. You have a guy that destroyed the guy. So you had an aggressive guy. So you had a seek and destroy missile. So that's all you had. No, you had much more than that. You had infrared. You had infrared missiles. You had laser guided missiles. You had counter punches. I saw jabs. I saw body work. I saw short punches. I saw time punches. I saw the right selected punches, and then I saw counter punching in spots. Anyway, the whole package.
Listening to you guys made me think of something. I want to actually see if you guys agree. I've been saying this for a while. Punchers and finishers are different things. Beterbiev showed, yeah, he can punch. We know that.
Both.
We knew that going in, but he's also a finisher, and that's why he's got a perfect KO percentage. And Paulie, what you said was spot on in terms of him actually backing up and luring Callum Smith in. Because listen, Paul, you've been in the ring with guys and that are good punchers, but maybe aren't the best finishers. One guy I can think of was Ruslan Provodnikov, great puncher, best puncher I've ever been in the ring with. Wasn't the greatest finisher at times because he wasn't thinking as much. Beterbiev, opposite. Provodnikov never took a step back. He never set up a knockout. He just bulldozed you and beat you up and got you out of there. A guy like Beterbiev, he can do that. He's done that. We've all seen him do that. People expect him to do that. But listen, on top of that, he could do all the things that you were saying, Teddy. He's got the full arsenal, the artillery to use the jab in between, use the body shots, to step backward, to lure you into delivering that power. Paul, Teddy, you've got that great saying, right? You can have nukes in your gloves, but if you don't have the targeting system to get there, it doesn't matter. Beterbiev not only has the nukes, but he has the delivery system to get there again and again, to set it up when it's not working, and find a way to get you out of there. Super impressive top to bottom, this guy.
Well, Chris, you mentioned the fountain of youth, and Beterbiev is going to be 39 years old in a few days. We talked about his atypical drug test last week. ESPN literally gave it 59 seconds during the telecast. They talked about it for under a minute. I just want to read
He's their fighter. Look, we tell them we shoot it straight here.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
He's their fighter. I'm surprised they spent 59 seconds on it.
Boxing media is not fair. Boxing media is not fair. Who gets covered and who doesn't are two different things.
Well, Chris, I want to get your. I want to read a post from Tony Bellew, former cruiserweight champion. He said, "Obviously, we want Bivol Beterbiev next. It's a great fight, but please show me a fighter who has gotten stronger with age. He's 39 and he's getting more destructive. Physically, that's not usually possible, but he's doing it. Our great sport needs looking at like baseball was. And of course, we remember the big baseball steroid scandal. That's obviously what he's alluding to. What do you make about what Tony said and about his performance, Beterbiev's performance at 39?
You know, we talked about this last week on one of our shows, and if you don't have the app, you should definitely download it and check out what we got going on, because we talk about everything as it unfolds. And I'm sticking with what I said. I mean, it's a curious finding. I think there should be more investigation. I mean, why does this guy at 39 have elevated levels of testosterone and HGH in multiple drug tests, both urine and blood, leading up to a fight? You know, months out, of course.
What they call it, Chris? Abnormal.
Atypical. Atypical findings. Atypical.
I even like the different adjectives they start using. Like,
well,
that's a new one to me.
So that's the thing.
Now it's atypical. They keep adding the vocabulary to it to kind of make it sound a bit as normal as it can, you know.
And even if Beterbiev has done everything by the code and everything's legal, he's an atypical guy. So that adjective is not the worst word choice in terms of what's going on. Listen, some people are genetic freaks. He might be that way, but like I said, in terms of him definitely being tested in the past and this never being an issue, I would say this needs a little more investigation. I think just to be safe, because it's a very dangerous sport, and he's obviously a very dangerous puncher.
My curiosity is, okay, we talk about like Bellew said, okay, show me a guy who's gotten older and stronger and better and has gotten these kind of performances as they get older. You know, I think of guys like Ali. I think of guys like, you know, the guys who've gotten older, that were really well. Ali was older and he faded out. You know what I'm saying? And
Bernard too. Bernard changed his style. He was way more destructive when he was younger.
You know, Yeah, that's the thing. You kind of got to become a bit more clever as you get older, and when you have this kind of situation. I don't know, man. We've seen this before in the past 20 years, especially. Um, I don't know, man. It's one of those things that's become taboo to talk about because
Hmm.
people like to root for winners, and so when you pinpoint their winner, as a guy who might not be doing it right, I think it hurts their feelings. It sort of makes them feel a certain way because it's a person that they sort of connected with emotionally. If you look at it, it's almost like they're superhero. You know, it's something that it pulls on a nerve for some people when you call it out. But you got to also understand that when guys are doping or cheating or whatnot, they're going to typically be winners. They're not going to be guys who are doing that and then coming up short against clean guys. So it does. So it is difficult to do this, especially in a sport that really doesn't do much drug testing as much as they should. It isn't as strict as much as they should be, so that you can never really be sure. And then when you can never really be sure, there are laws against staining somebody's reputation, and they can kind of sue you and whatnot. But really, the testing is so what's the word I'm looking for? So
I mean,
low level.
yeah,
low
it's
level.
low level. It's
And
few and far
inadequate.
between. It's
Yeah.
That really you can't.
it's porous.
You can't,
Is really what
yeah,
it
and
is.
you can't really have a drawn out conclusion. So and they keep winning, but you're seeing the evidence, and you can't really say too much. You can kind of hint at it, but then again, I've been through it, man. That's why I stopped saying this stuff.
Yeah.
It pulls on a nerve, and people. I notice people get emotional towards this certain fighters, towards their people. They look up to them. The athletes in general, actually, there are people that people don't want to admit these kind of things about, and then they'll look at somebody like me and say, well, you're just mad or you're just jealous because you didn't accomplish that, bro. I wasn't doing that shit though. You know what I mean? Like I can look at myself in the mirror, and maybe they can too. When you have no morals and no standards, you can look at yourself in the mirror and be totally fine with it because your bank account has got 10 times more money in it than I do.
They have no mirrors. They don't have mirrors.
But
You go in their house, there's no mirrors.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right?
They're like Dracula. It's like Dracula.
But
If you go in Dracula's house, there's no
he's
mirrors.
not in the mirror. But the thing is, Teddy, it's also the momentum you gain from being a winner. And so people sort of jump on the momentum train, on the gravy train, and the fans and get on there. And then they protect you because, again, there's an emotional connection to a winner that they look up to. And I hate to say it, bro. If you like this, and a lot more people like this in today's society than maybe 50 years ago, you're a loser, dude. You're a loser. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Doesn't matter how much you're a loser. If you need to be in denial about things like this, and you got to get mad about things that are pretty obvious, that sometimes they start getting pretty obvious. Situations like this get pretty obvious. You're a loser, dude. You know what I mean? Whether you make money or whether you don't make money in your own private life, you're a loser, especially if you're a grown man who needs another grown man to be a certain type of superhero status. And we can't break the news to you that hey, this might not be a real thing. This might be something that, needs to come out. You're a loser, dude. And it's all these losers out there that are actually the problem, because they're the ones that gain this. This would have no momentum if we didn't have such an overload of losers in this world, and that need to look up to people like this instead of looking up themselves and say, I can find the motivation in myself. I don't need to find the motivation in a guy like this, But that's the thing. And then when you call out that particular guy, you call out that particular problem within the sport, that this sport has a big, big problem. Like Bellu said, it is getting to the level where it was like baseball. Baseball had the same problem in that they didn't want it to come out. They didn't want it to be out. Like I was 17 years old. I remember that baseball scandal. I was 17 years old, and I was saying they want steroids. At 17, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. And I'm a 17-year-old naive idiot, and I'm thinking to myself, bro, Maris and Mantle were like neck and neck in the 40s, 50s, and Mantle fell off, and Maris got the 61 home runs. It was like neck and neck. These guys are getting close to. These guys are getting to 50 at the All-Star break. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, this doesn't even normal.
Well,
this
champ.
But people didn't want to hear it back then. Baseball made a ton of money back then, because why did baseball make a ton more money back then? Why did they love? Because again, people love to believe in something like that. Oh,
Remember the
get a Marvel
commercials?
comic book. Go get a Marvel comic book. Go get a DC comic book and read them every day. You want to look up at superheroes. You want to look up in go rent yourself a Marvel movie. There's more of those out there, by the way. That's not by coincidence either. You know, there's more and more superhero movies out today. You notice that? That's not by coincidence, bro. We are made to appease a loser generation that then it gives us these kind of results, these kind of situations. And bro, in a dangerous sport like this, you're really, really playing with fire. Because even when something happens to somebody, you can never even, nobody ever talks about that. Everybody says, it's part of the game. It's just not, because you can never talk about the doping aspect of it because you don't know who's doping, who's not anyway. Because the testing is so weak.
Well, champ, to that point,
people catastrophically getting hurt. They weren't in the ring with somebody like that. You don't know anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the testing doesn't catch anybody anyway. Almost never.
Champ, well, you and I, we fought at high level. We were surrounded by guys that potentially could have been, and listen, I know a lot of people thought during my heyday, a lot of people thought that I was on drugs, and a lot of my opponents actually, Ruslan Makhachev actually paid for my drug testing because there was talk that because I never got tired, I was in great shape, I could take a punch. So I got tested. And I was
a lot of jabs. There's a difference when we're getting tired. I can tell. I can see a guy conditioned the right way.
Yeah.
And condition. I can see a guy when I'm not gonna even name the guy's name because I got killed every time I say this guy's name. When you're throwing 15 punch combinations and then you back it up and backing it up with and reaffirming it with a 20 punch combination and jumping back in and jumping back in and jumping back out and jumping back in. There's a punch count where your jab is a high level and you were like that and I was like that. I had a high punch count too, but it was mostly jabs because I'm able to control the pace.
Well, I threw combinations too quite a bit. I think that's a lot of people. But
combinations, you're taking something off of some of the combinations.
Yeah,
you're not throwing them all hard. You know what I mean? There's a give. It's like driving a Ferrari. Bro.
Listen, I was tested for all my big fights.
You got guys that are constantly in fifth gear. When there was one guy constantly in fifth gear, it became ridiculous, bro.
Let's get Teddy's take, but also I want to throw out there because we're running out of time. Teddy, I want your take on that. But also, Beterbiev Bivol, it's just about announced. His Excellency Turkey Al-Sheikh said that he wants to fight in June. He said that at the Joshua press conference yesterday, the Joshua Ngannou press conference yesterday. So we're looking forward to that fight maybe in June. But Teddy, your thoughts on the whole atypical drug test for Beterbiev?
Well, I'll tell you a guy real quick that got better with age. You know, it's not typical, like we just said, but Manny Pacquiao, yeah, I'll say it. He got better. And I love Manny Pacquiao, and I'm not accusing him of anything, but the question came up a couple of times. So he got bigger. You're not supposed to get stronger. He got stronger. You're not supposed to keep your speed. He kept his speed, and he kept going. And he even when he was old, he beat guys like Thurman, who was inactive and all, but still. And listen, he's a special guy. Manny Pacquiao's a special fighter. But I'm just saying, he ain't the first guy that we got a glimpse of some of this. I just wanted to remind us of that. We forget sometimes. And
Teddy, look, I didn't forget. I fought him.
No, you can't.
I don't forget Manny Pacquiao.
You can't forget. And I think it was right. I had to bring him up. And again, I love the guy, but I love what he's about. I love what he does with his people in his country and everything else, what he tries to do, what he cares about. But, facts are facts. So anyway, no accusation, just put it out there the way it should be put out there and not avoiding something. But boxing is not, it don't police itself. It doesn't investigate itself. It's not set up. That's where you need a national commission. I know I don't have much time here, but there's no infrastructure to police itself, to put forward rules and then enforce rules. It's not set up for that. Everything else is just BS. It's just talk, jib and jab. Everyone's talking about it, but nothing at the end gets done because there's not a national commission. There is that kind of infrastructure in baseball, so they could do it. And I tell you another thing, Congress got involved, and I'll put this out there. Why? Because they care. Because there's big marketing out there. There's big corporations behind it. Boxing don't have that. Boxing is thought of as the red light district, unfortunately, and the people that maybe they're not as important to care about. And I gotta say it because I want to ruffle somebody's feathers. Maybe they just we don't care about them, but we care about the baseball players, we care about the football players, we care about other people, but we don't care about the boxers that come from very difficult places in life that deserve to be cared about, that put it all on the line. Every time they get in the ring, they get out of the ring with less of themselves than they go in the ring. We shouldn't care about them. We shouldn't have the rules for them. We shouldn't have the protection for them. Of course we should. And I'll finish with this. It's prevalent through our sport. Yeah, it is. Every once in a while it pops up. You hear about this, but nothing really happens. It's prevalent. And the sport has it all over the place. And it is a serious problem that Paulie was talking about, that Chris was. It is a very serious problem. And I'm not accusing one person of it. It's out there across the board. And it needs to be done. Some needs to be done about it, because unlike hitting a baseball, I don't give a crap if a baseball gets the cover knocked off it, but I do give a crap if a freaking guy's skull gets cracked in because there's something in that guy's veins that shouldn't be in the veins.
Well, to your point, Teddy, what like Tony Bellew said, our great sport needs looking at like baseball was, but there's no one to check into it. Chris, I want to go to you real quick, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I want to tie in a couple of things that both Teddy and Paulie touched on. Paulie and I, we fought at a high level. We were around that, and we knew that there were guys that were using. And listen, I know of guys. We're not accusing anyone or naming any names or anything like that. But someone like me and Paulie, I've talked to you off air, and you're the same way. I had too many ethics to be one of those guys like, well, listen, they're doing it, so I got to do it too. I wish I could have been that guy, kind of, but honestly, I wasn't one of those guys. I don't have that. Even if I didn't have that ethical wherewithal to be able to make that decision, be like, you know what, I'm doing it, they're doing it, it is what it is. If I had gotten caught, my entire career would have been nil. I'm not one of those guys who could be above the testing. Some of these guys, it doesn't matter. They get caught and they just deal with it. And it is what it is, and people forget it. Like you said, it gets pushed under the rug. I was never one of those guys. I wasn't a guy that was able to be above that, and a lot of other fighters aren't. And when the guys do get caught who aren't those top name guys, you never hear about them again. But the top name guys, for some reason, they can come back into sport. To what you said, Paulie, these superhero type guys that people really like, and these that have the media behind them, that they have their promotional companies behind them. It's just different. That's why I said boxing media is not fair. Because you don't get the same look. You don't get looked under the same microscope depending on fighter to fighter. And that's a problem too. And like you said, Teddy, there is no oversight. There's no one to look over this stuff. There's no one who really cares that much, because it's going to hurt their bottom line. And that's the real issue. When the bottom line, for someone who's major, a promotion or a network or a media, whatever, when their bottom line is in danger, that's when this stuff doesn't get out. And it's a real shame. And like we talked about the baseball situation, they fixed theirs. I don't know if this is going to get fixed anytime soon in boxing.
Well, this isn't
5 seconds. And that's why guys like Barry Bonds started doping, because he saw Sosa and McGuire. He was a great home run hitter, and he's realized, hey, I deserve this kind of credit too. I was a great home run hitter. And that's why he started on it. The trickle-down effect. It forces guys who wouldn't otherwise have done it start to do it as well. And the sport becomes rampant in the sport, because you can't succeed, and it affects your paycheck if you don't do it.
Well, it's an ongoing discussion, guys, and it seems like we have this discussion every few weeks. But the bottom line with Deep Waters, Artur Beterbiev is back. We're looking forward to him fighting Dmitry Bivol maybe in June. We're going to have a lot of talk about that fight. And guys, I think this subject about drugs and boxing is obviously going to come up soon again. Want to thank you guys. Want to remind everyone to download the app, subscribe, because you get champions and Hall of Famers every single day talking boxing. ProBox TV is your boxing channel.